Good afternoon, everyone. Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. It is a Tomlin Tuesday, a little later than normal. Mike Tomlin, however, is ready to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and the game coming up Monday in Cincy. Let's go to the coach right now.
Good afternoon. Really excited about getting started this week. We had a bonus-like day today with our players and really focused on ourselves and a couple of areas of play that we feel like we need to shore up, particularly red zone offense and some red zone defense. As a matter of fact, we treated the last several days like a mini bye from a staff perspective and took a deep dive on some schematics in those areas and then turned our attention towards Cincinnati and what they do in those areas, all in an effort to, make victory more, the engineering of victory more fluid. We've looked at the last collection of games, and we feel like there's more meat on that bone offensively and defensively. And so with the extra couple of days, we thought it was appropriate to focus on ourselves in that space. And then we focused on the application of that research today in terms of delivering that to the players and working those spaces a little bit. We'll proceed with the remainder of our week tomorrow. It'll be a normally scheduled Wednesday, and we'll lock in and lean in on the Bengals. But before I get into all of that, we'll do a quick review or an assessment of our last performance. As I said after the game, man, I just thought that we warmed up to it. And by warming up to it, I mean we didn't take control of the game at the early juncture. They made some splash plays, and particularly Myles Garrett, I thought, made some splash plays. We did our due diligence schematically in terms of working to minimize them. But like a lot of great players, man, he overcame some of those things in some instances, and I thought he just provided splash for them, not only in terms of playmaking, but the energy, the wave that he provided that the rest of them rode. Not only the players, but I thought environmentally. When he made those splash plays early in the game, it made it a tougher environment and thus tougher for us to navigate. I thought we smiled in the face of that adversity, and we fought our way back into the football game and made some plays of our own. And then in the waning moments of the game, I thought they simply made more plays than we did. I thought we had some moments, but I thought they made more plays than we did. And oftentimes when you're in tight ball games, it comes down to that weighty playmaking in the latter moments of games. They made a couple fourth down plays. I thought the Winston touchdown run on 4th down and 2 obviously was a significant example of that. We had an opportunity to get into our 4-minute offense and maybe close the game out. We were unsuccessful in that endeavor, and we coupled that with a less than ideal punt. And so, we got to get back to, weighty playmaking, particularly in the waning moments of games. That's life in the NFL. There's a fine line between drinking wine and squashing grapes. We know that. We live that. When you take a step back and watch ball at a distance like we were this week, it kind of verifies that sentiment if you didn't know it. And so we're excited about getting back to work this week, man. We know we got a big game this week in some AFC North competition, and so we're preparing with an edge with that understanding. From a health standpoint, we got Alex Highsmith leaning in on the return. We'll let his participation and the quality of that participation be our guide in terms of whether he gets back in or to what degree he gets back in. We got some other guys who are working their way back to us, like Corey Trice and Mon Adams, that may have an opportunity this week as well. Again, we'll leave the door ajar for those guys, man. There's strength in numbers, and obviously we need all the expertise that we can get as the road gets narrow and this competition gets thick as we move into December. Now talk Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, you can't talk these guys without talking Joe Burrow. If you look at the tape, man, he's MVP caliber in terms of what he's doing for them. I started first with the 2 Baltimore games because of the intimacy of divisional play. Man, I don't know how many touchdowns he threw in those 2 football games. I know Chase himself had 5. It's just kind of reflective of what he and they are capable of. We got to do a really good job. We better carry enough defense schematically. But within that, we better perform at a high enough level because it's not just schematics that beats them. You better have enough schematics. You better perform it or execute it at a relatively high level. You better do a good job of providing pre-snap looks. You better blitz some. You better play coverage some. You better do a lot of things. And I think that is reflective of a quarterback in his position. I say the same thing when we play guys like Matt Stafford and so forth, guys that are anticipatory passers, guys that are at complete command of their system of offense, guys that know where all their eligibles are. And oftentimes that's illustrated by his ability to throw no-look checkdowns and things of that nature. He just knows where all his people are. When you're playing quarterbacks like that, man, you better carry enough defense. You might be able to, trick them or stay ahead of them for 20 or 30 minutes, but you better have enough defense. It's a 60-minute game. I think that's reflected in watching them play. I think oftentimes you see teams are capable of slowing him or slowing them down at the early portions of the game, but in the fourth quarter, he and they are coming on like gangbusters. And so, I've been around long enough to have an appreciation for that. I know how and why that happens. You better carry enough defense. They get comfortable as the game goes on with what it is that you're doing, what it is they need to do to be successful, and they adjust, they adapt, both the individuals and the collective. And so for those reasons, man, we're obviously preparing with an edge. Man, he's got some top-notch eligibles to throw the ball to, starting with number 1, Chase. He's probably tops in the league in every wide receiver statistical category. He's got top-notch talent. They do an awesome job of moving him around within their system of offense. They got some continuity there, obviously, between he and Joe, who've been in that system for a number of years now. And I think it's reflected in the many things that they asked him to do. You turn on 2024 tape, there's more pre-snap movement from him. There's more positional variation from him, making him a more difficult guy to minimize. Obviously, T. Higgins is a matchup issue. He's big. He's strong. He's got really good run after. He got the speed on us last year and had a big play and kind of, got them back in that football game. But again, when you talk about T, you're talking about a guy who is combative, man, who doesn't die easy, particularly after the catch. We got to tackle, we got to wrap. They got some new additions to their group. Gesicki at tight end, man, is a vertical threat. He's often a mashup issue. Too big for defensive backs, too athletic for linebackers, and so we're being thoughtful about how we're formulating a plan to minimize him. He's got some talented new young receivers that are emerging because Tyler Boyd obviously is no longer there. Burton is one to mention, who's had a hat in recent weeks and appears to be a downfield guy for him. I was at his pro day in Tuscaloosa last year, man. He's really talented. He's got a well-rounded game. He's got some awesome receiver skills. And then they got a turnover in the backfield with Brown. Obviously, we're used to facing Mixon over the years from them, but Brown is not new to them. He's a second-year player. He's got a well-rounded skill set for the running back position. He's good in interior runs. He's good on perimeter runs. He's got good burst, pick, and vision. He's an asset to him in the passing game, particularly in the screen game. Screens have been a challenge for us against them in recent years. I think I looked at the screen reel this morning. I think they've run 23 screens of some description against us in the last 6 games to put some perspective on how big that component of play is. And so we got our hands full in terms of some of those things. On the defensive side of the ball, 9-1 is setting an awesome pace on the perimeter in terms of getting after the quarterback. He is an all-day job. You can allocate 2 people in body positions and things of that nature, but you can't find comfort in it because he sees those schematics week in and week out and still finds ways to impact the game in a very big way. His partner, Sam Hubbard, is versatile and talented. Sam's so versatile, I saw him on offense yesterday. Man, he's playing some situational tight end for him as well, and I just think that speaks to his football intellect and versatility. Their second-level defenders, man, Wilson and company, is a homegrown products and have grown up in that system of defense, and I think it's reflected in not only the many things that they're capable of doing, but how they communicate, how they're coordinated. Wilson, man, every year it seems like he adds a new trick to his bag. This year, man, oftentimes he's a component of their rush. They get in some sub packages, some dime 32, some nickel 33, and oftentimes he's the fourth and fifth rusher. He does a really good job in that area, picking offensive linemen and things of that nature. He's an asset versus quarterback mobility. I've seen him in some of those quarterback mobility games, Washington and Baltimore, where he matches athleticism against the opposing quarterbacks. And so he's got big-time versatility there. They got a lot of quality players in the secondary. Taylor Britt, man, is an aggressive guy, very ball-aware, a sound run support guy and tackler, as is Mike Hilton. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're completely comfortable playing sub-package football. When you got a nickel like Mike, who's a good blitzer, a good run game tackler, is very good on the perimeter. I think they're comfortable standing up in a lot of circumstances in that personnel group, and the tape reflects that. Got some top quality players at safety. Geno Stone's a new acquisition. Obviously, Geno is not new to us, being a former Raven, and I'd imagine that's why they were attracted to him. He had an awesome interception against them a year ago. As a Raven, he's doing quality work for them as a center fielder and central communicator on the back end and tying all those things together. Darren in special teams, man, has been there a long time. He's probably been there as long as I've been here. And I think that's reflected in the cohesion in which they operate in that phase of the game, in the playmaking that happens in that game. We're highly familiar with these guys, but I'm sure they're highly familiar with us as well. And I just think that that's a component of AFC North football that makes it exciting and interesting this time of year. I know we have big-time urgency as we formulate our plans, and I'm excited about putting the group to work in preparation for this opportunity the remainder of the week. So that being said, I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, does it say anything to you, or is it an indicator of anything that you haven't lost to a team with a winning record? I think you're the only team with a 5-0 record. That you get in those big moments, you play well.
You know, I haven't overanalyzed it in that way. Really, we're just trying to win week in and week out, and you know, whoever it is that we play, we try to formulate a schematic plan. We try to divide the labor up that kind of accentuates our talents and minimizes our weaknesses. And really, it's just kind of a week-to-week mentality more than anything else. And do we have belief in ourselves? Certainly. We won't back down from any challenge, but I hadn't thought about it. Really, that's the first I've heard of that.
Mike, why haven't you guys gotten as many sacks collectively this year?
You know, probably a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. We've had people missing at times, and oftentimes the strength of the pack is the pack. For a large portion of the early portion of the season, we were without Alex and Herbert, for example, and then obviously when you minus guys like that, people can focus their energies on TJ and things of that nature, but also just the nature in which people play us. Particularly in one-dimensional passing moments, they're aware of our reputation and the reputation of individuals within our group. Oftentimes, we see max protection, particularly when it's possession down and distance, and obviously that minimizes your capabilities in terms of getting home. It makes it easier to cover people on the back end, but it does make it more difficult to get home. And so for us, we're just trying to be successful in those moments. We don't have control of all the variables in those moments. If people choose to protect, then we better win on the back end. If people have 5 eligible out, we better win in terms of the rush. I think that's probably the spirit in which we operate and how a lot of these things have kind of unfolded.
Mike, you guys moved T.J. Watt to the other side of the formation that he normally lines up 4 times against the Giants. Since then, you guys really haven't done that at all. Is that more so about game planning, or has that been more about the personnel that have been available?
It's probably a little bit of both. I think we were working at a deficit at the Giant game in terms of our edge people. As we get everybody back, we're more inclined to play from their home spots.
Is moving him around more something that you guys want to do, or do you want guys to have more home spots in your defense?
You know, it's week to week, to be quite honest with you. Some of those discussions are matchup based about the people that we face, and so they're relative to particular weeks.
Mike, what did your study in the mini-bye tell you about your short yardage offense?
We need to get better is a component of it. But also there were some game circumstances. You know, we as a coaching staff need to adapt and adjust to replay assist. Sometimes we make decisions at speed, and a spot of the ball might be different, or a circumstance might be different based on replay assist, and I think that's happened 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that's been a component of performance for us. And so, some of the things got nothing to do specifically with the schematics that we call or the utilization of people. It's just those moments and administratively and logistically how things go. And so we looked at all components of it, but obviously we need to be better than we've been, particularly of late.
How much time do you have from replay assist to making that call? Do they give you any extra time when they?
It really depends on the speed in which they administer replay assist, and so that's subject to vary.
Mike, similar to the self-scouting on short yardage situations, did that study reveal any common thread into some of the red zone struggles that have happened lately?
No doubt on both sides of the ball, and that's why we're excited about getting back to work today. And the application component, identification is just one component. Application is probably more significant in terms of what are we going to do to rectify it, both in schematics and with manpower.
As far as red zone offense goes, is it a personnel thing, a play calling thing, a mix of the two?
I think when you're not getting the desired result, it's always a combination of all of the above. I think if it was really simple and in one area, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And so there were multiple components to the discussion, certainly.
Mike, what have you guys learned about having the sub package where Justin comes in for Russ through a couple of weeks? When you evaluate the production there, what's the benefit of having him come in mid-series as opposed to on first down?
It's a component of what we do. I've been pretty clear about that. Once Justin got healthy, he's a viable and capable dude, and it's something that our opponents have to be aware of. When we use it or how much we utilize it will be dependent on plans week to week.
What's the benefit? What's the benefit? Usually when something like that happens, it's at the start of a series, but you guys are doing it like on second down, on third down. What's the benefit from the coaching staff, so you're pointing to it?
There's a strategic component that I won't get into detailing, but certainly we feel comfortable with how we infuse it and when we infuse it, certainly.
So there's no concern about disrupting the rhythm of the offense or anything like that?
Certainly there's a potential of that, but we're more excited about the challenges that it presents the opposing unit. And I think that's reflective of our general attitude. We live in our hope as opposed to our fears.
How's that work with you and Arthur? Is that kind of like you go to him and say it might be a good time to make a switch, or come to you? Is that just a constant conversation?
It could happen from either party and has, certainly.
Justin said he felt like it was maybe kind of random or on feel when he goes in. Is that the case, or is it a down and distance situation?
Again, as I mentioned, those plans are formulated week to week based on the opponent. And so, I don't know if this week will be reflective of what you saw last week, to be quite honest with you. Just know that it is certainly a component of what we do and a component of every plan.
Is there a particular challenge to having 4 division games in a row?
I hadn't thought about it in that way. I know we play 6 every year, and that's kind of my mindset. When they occur, I'm less concerned about because we don't have control over that. I love them, to be quite honest with you, in the latter part of the year as the road gets narrow because there's weight on it. And as a competitor, man, you like to be in big moments and big games, and so that's exciting.
Mike, you were 1 for 3 on fourth down. When you go back and look at those missed opportunities, do you say, oh, we didn't execute this, or do you say, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have gone for it after going back and looking at it?
It's probably a little bit of both in terms of analysis when you look back at it, but that's the benefit of hindsight. We're going to be aggressive in terms of the pursuit of victory, and so most of the time I'm comfortable with the decision to go, and it's more focused on what we're doing schematically or the quality of that execution.
Mike, you guys have now had Mike Williams about 3 weeks. Just how has he done jumping on this moving train, and what more can he do to gain a larger target share?
Yeah, he's done a nice job, man, just fitting in, learning our football and how we go about our business and getting himself ready for what we're asking him to do week in and week out. And it's reasonable to expect that to continue and grow the longer he's here.
Mike, George was involved in what looked like a post-game scuffle on the Hail Mary attempt. What happened on that play? What was he supposed to be doing?
I didn't see the video. I heard about it. Certainly he was involved in the Hail Mary as a point man.
Did you hear from the league or anything about them looking into that?
I did not.
What is a point man on Hail Mary?
The guy that high points the football.
Was he in position to do that?
I think their actions had something to do with him not being in position to do that.
Mike Broderick says that he appreciates you having faith in him, pat on the back. How do you determine which guys need a pat on the back or a kick in the butt?
The things that, I do with them in the privacy of our space, I'll leave between us. The things that I tell you guys often isn't necessarily how I handle them, and I'll simply leave it at that.
How much are you learning about, or how much is there learning versus growth with not only Broderick, but Mason next to him, being that they're both first and second year players?
They're talented young people. Obviously, that's why they're playing. But at the same time, I own the responsibility of their growth and development as a coach and leader. And so, I like working with young players. I like to be a component of their growth and development. But all in the midst of that, they have to play winning football for us. And I certainly think they're capable, and I certainly think they understand the responsibility. And in the midst of that, man, we're working to get better.
Mike, Minka hasn't, produced as far as turnovers, but you guys are giving up among the fewest production in the middle part of the field. What does he do that might be overlooked by people who don't see what he's doing on the back end of the defense?
People don't throw the ball in that space, but I think that's what happens when you got quality players. People show their respect to quality players by being cautious about how they go about playing. We played Atlanta Falcons week 1. We threw 0 balls in the middle of the field because of Jesse Bates. We're familiar with Jesse Bates. We know what Jesse Bates is capable of. A few weeks after we played him, somebody threw the ball in the middle of the field, and he won the game for Atlanta Falcons. And so that's just football in the NFL. You better be cognizant of the personnel and unique skill sets, and you show respect to those talents by being thoughtful about how you attack them.
Mike, is it typical for you guys to self-evaluate during the mini-bye week? Is that something you've always done?
Yes.
What do you look for when you're going in there? Is it something specific or whatever jumps out at you?
Usually it's pointed and specific on areas that we identify that need improvement, like red zone offense, red zone defense in recent weeks.
Like as far as rearranging, the practice schedule to have that additional time to self-scout the coaching staff yesterday, is any part of that also extra rest, knowing that coming up there's 3 games in 10 days?
No.
Like Jamar Chase, you mentioned where he's tops in a lot of different categories. Yards after catch is one of them. Touchdowns is another. How do you try to contain him in those 2 areas in particular? And they may be combined.
We better be close to him, and then we better tackle the catch. It's as simple as that. If you're not close to him and he gets the speed, he's a problem. And so, obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning, we better carry a full menu, some zone, some man. Regardless of whether it's zone or man, you better have people close to him. You better pass them through zones. You better be thoughtful about the man component, all in an effort to challenge him at the catch point. And if you're unsuccessful in that endeavor, you better get him on the ground sooner rather than later. The longer he's on his feet, the more likelihood he's going to ring the scoreboard up. And that's just what the tape tells us.
Mike, you guys moved Joey a little bit. He was lining up in the slot a few times on against the Browns. How did you assess him moving around your defense? It appeared like he did that more often in that game than he had in a lot of other games.
Got no issue with that. Joey's always game. He's always looking for the matchup in action. I like how that unfolded.
Mike Broderick said he needs to be focused more at times. To you, what does that mean, being focused?
Again, I don't know the context of the discussion that you had with Broderick, and so I'm going to be slow to add any color to it. Broderick's a talented young player. He's working every day to get better. He cares. I like the overall trajectory of it.
Mike, when you say he cares, where do you see that manifest itself?
In everything that he does.
Mike, Jalen got a little bigger piece of the pie in terms of the workload from running backs last game. Was that just game plan specific, or were there other external factors like the short week and things of that nature?
It was a short week. We wanted to utilize all our healthy people in an effort to get the best product out there, and not only at the running back position, but we had an inclusive mentality about the participation of all people in helmets.
Najee had 3 straight games. That was over 5 yards a carry, over 100 yards, and then the last 3 have been like almost half that. Is that a reflection to you of lack of performance of your team in the rushing game, or a change in the way teams have been trying to defend you?
Probably a little bit of both, to be honest with you, and we'll see what this week holds.
Mike, on the 3rd and 4, Justin said it was basically pick a side of the field. He was going to go for one-on-one. Was there anything else built in there where you had an intermediate route to get the first down?
No, we felt good about it, to be quite honest with you. It was a weighty moment. It was third medium. They had 11 guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. We had GP matched up on a corner not named Denzel Ward. That feels like more than a 50-50 ball to me, and so we were comfortable with that decision.
Even though Justin hadn't thrown a pass in a game in a month?
Even though, certainly.
Mike Georgios also said after the game he didn't think the Browns were a very good team. Conditions kind of saved. Are you all right with guys putting that out there, or do you wish you'd keep that frustration?
I'm not going to add color to people's comments. Their comments and thoughts and feelings are their own. I don't want them to be robots. I don't tell them what to think or say. And so I've just learned over the years, man, not to add color to what people say or their comments. Those are their comments and thoughts. And so if you want additional information or perspective on it, ask them.
Mike, it looked like there was a lot of stuff going on the end of that 3rd and 4 pass downfield. How was the throw? Was it executed?
Which play are you talking about?
The third down the fields through the Pickens.
And what was your question?
It looked like there was a lot of fighting going on at the end of it, but how was the throw, the accuracy?
I don't know that I had a real good judgment of the throw because of the interaction that you mentioned.
There's not much you haven't experienced in your NFL career, but the Hard Knocks cameras, being on a show in season, what are your thoughts on that? Have you told the guys much about how to handle it?
To me, it's something to conquer, to be quite honest with you. We have to deal with it better than the other 3 teams. That's how I view a lot of things that come across my plate, particularly when others have to deal with it. I'm less concerned about the inconvenience of it and more concerned about, are we positioning ourselves to perform under those conditions better than those that we compete against. And so, it's something that everyone in the AFC North has to deal with. And so it's our agenda to do so better than the other 3 teams.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's it. Coach Mike Tomlin ending it, talking about Hard Knocks. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews with you.
No extra cameras in here today.
No, we're all by ourselves today, and we thank you for joining us here on KDK Plus and the Steeler Digital platforms. But that is a reality. If you come around here, you're going to see a bunch of trailers and HBO-related stuff, just because that's what's starting here until the rest of the season. So, coaches don't like distractions, but I think he had a good answer there about how to deal with it. It is what it is. We got to deal with it. It's here. Let's make the most of it.
And to try to do a better job at not letting it be a distraction compared to the other 3 AFC North teams. But in Cleveland, you noticed there was an influx of NFL Films cameras around, so it has started. The first episode airs next week. So crazy to think that they'll turn it around quickly, and I'm sure there will be a lot of good viewing things in terms of these 4 football teams.
It'll be widely watched, no question about it, and so will this game on Sunday between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's a big one because Cincinnati is a team that is 4-7. They can't afford another loss, or maybe they can, but they have to win everything else. I think 9-8 may get them back into the wild card picture, but you know what I'm talking about, Missy. They're a desperate football team that can put points up on the scoreboard rather quickly.
Yeah, and they've had, their last 6 games by 1 possession. That one against the Ravens that we were all watching closely. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are doing their part of scoring points and being, this amazing tandem. So I think it's on the rest of the team, but there's still other good players that Coach outlined throughout his entire press conference.
They've had 2 games against the Ravens. They could have won each of those games. They could have beaten Kansas City. Came down to a critical interference call at the end of that. They should have beaten the Chargers because they had 2 missed field goals at the end. That's how close they've been. So this is one of those games that I'm sure the Steelers will be up for, and they need to be up for, given what happened last week in Cleveland. We'll take a break, come back with more as the Steelers get ready for the Bengals. We'll break down Mike Tomlin's press conference and offer our own thoughts. That's when we continue right here on KDK Plus and Steelers Digital platform. It is a Tomlin Tuesday.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
And here's the roar of the crowd in Acrisure Stadium.
This is what it's all about. You've got this whole place rocking.
Picked off, touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, the crowd is loving it.
I can't even believe that I just saw what I saw.
T.J. Watt with a sack.
this time around. How did that feel, and just how did you feel that was working out for you?
Felt good. I was glad I was able to, get a chance to help my team.
On the 3rd and 6 call, was George your first read there?
Yeah. He's kind of pick a side. I chose to go to GP, he's a top 5 receiver in the league, one-on-one. He's made a lot of plays. Go Balls, but yeah.
Seemed like there was some confusion on the one play. You guys maybe got it in a little bit late. Was that part of you coming in?
The first one?
I think it was the first one was a false start, and the second one you
It was
barely
a
got
fourth
the
down,
snap
right?
on.
It was a fourth down, yeah. I think Zach was going off the field. Zach and a few other O-linemen were going off the field, so I don't know if there was a communication where they thought that we were going to punt or what, but yeah.
Is there
Do you feel like that affected the play?
Not really. I feel like we, got the play call in when we were in the huddle and, got the ball snapped in time, so not really.
Does it affect your rhythm and timing to come off the field and be inserted for one-off plays like that?
Yeah. I think it does, but at the end of the day, that's what my job is. So you can't complain. And like I said, anytime I, get a chance and an opportunity to go on the field and help my team, I'm happy to do it. So.
Did the weather, you think, impact how much you were used, or was this the plan going in?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure necessarily. How much the weather impacted. Arthur calling plays out on package. So.
It seemed like most of the time you came in, it was short yardage. There was the one series where you came in, it's like 3 plays in a row, and you broke up the big run. Was that something different you were doing there, and what did you see on the run?
Yeah, it was just simple zone read. DN went down, and I pulled it, and it was kind of wide open, but wish I wouldn't have got hawked on that one. I'm kind of sick, but yeah, like I said, it's tough. Just got to stay warm on the sideline, but yeah.
Justin.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Obviously, you can't talk these guys without talking Joe Burrow. If you look at the tape, man, he's MVP caliber in terms of what he's doing for them. I started first with the 2 Baltimore games because of the intimacy of divisional play. Man, I don't know how many touchdowns he threw in those 2 football games. I know Chase himself had 5. It's just kind of reflective of what he and they are capable of. We got to do a really good job. We better carry enough defense schematically. But within that, we better perform at a high enough level.
That's Mike Tomlin talking about the always dangerous Joe Burrow, who, hard to believe this, but he's had 9 touchdown passes against Baltimore this year, and they've lost both games, which kind of sums up their defense. But let's talk more about Joe. We saw him a couple of years ago. Last year was all Josh Browning because of injury. They missed him twice. That first game of the first 2002 season was a 4-interception game, a 7-sack game. What did they do there, Missy? You were there versus what they need to do this coming Sunday.
Yeah, that was a crazy week 1 game. That's when Coach Tomlin gifted the entire team the black Air Force Ones to set the tone. And it was just the Steelers defense took over that game. Minka Fitzpatrick played outstanding. Even TJ Watt, that's unfortunately where he got that pec injury. But Joe Burrow, 3-2 against the Steelers. But as you said, the last game was in November of the 2022 season. And you could turn on any of their tapes, not even just the Ravens, and see that he still has it and is a good quarterback. And as Coach talked about, just maturing and growing, and the pre-snap coverages have to be disguised because of how good he is at figuring things out. And you can't say anything else about the relationship he has with Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase wanted more money now. They chose to wait. It's going to cost them more, it looks like.
Yes,
based on what's
bad
going
investment decision.
Yeah, if you were Cincinnati, maybe you should have done it then, because he's having a whale of a season. Looks to be in position to get the triple crown of receiving numbers, which are, catches, yards, and touchdowns. And then you had this guy, T. Higgins, into it. Now they got both complements of those guys, plus a tight end and a running back not named Joe Mixon, who's been very good. And you're going to see him right here in Chase Brown, a 5th-round pick, Missy, and he's been terrific.
Yeah, he's had the workload of the carries this year and has really come on strong as the season has progressed. I may or may not have him on my fantasy team, so I follow him closely. But I do think in terms of their offense, they are doing things correctly. It's unfortunate that the defense isn't holding up their end of the bargain, but they still have quality guys on the other side as well.
You know, what you're watching right now is Joe Burrow shed would-be tacklers, big guys. People don't look at him as one of those big, burly quarterbacks who can get away. But look at him shed Bosa right here. He's stronger than you think when it comes to getting away from pressure initially.
Well, I think in the AFC North, everyone automatically thinks of Lamar and what he's able to do, so maybe that's why. But agreed that there's a lot of different things the Steelers are going to have to defensively, be able to contain in terms of what Joe Burrow can do, not just himself, but with the rest of the guys.
Yeah, they have an offense that's going to score a lot, so I would imagine the Steelers are going to have to keep up with them. Even if their defense does a good job, you would expect, because they're scoring in every game, a lot of points. Although the Steelers are the only team to keep Baltimore under 20 this year, so there's that. They need a good defensive performance in this game, and I wondered how you would do it. We've talked a lot. You heard Mike Tomlin said it's about mixing things up, blitzing, or sitting back. I think pick your poison with him. If you go after him, if he does what he just did there on some of those highlights, he's going to find people down the field. So if you do sack or blitz him, you better come up with negative plays.
Right, and like you said, in terms of the Steelers' offense, we were going through earlier when Russell Wilson took over, 300 yards per game, being able to score a lot of points. Then you had the Ravens game, which Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals, so it would have been more than 18. But for the Steelers, not able to get a touchdown. Great to see that they did that in Cleveland, just not enough and not often enough as well.
That's correct, and we'll come back talk about more regarding this game with the Steelers and the Bengals coming up. It's the second of 4 straight division games. It's a big one. It's coming up on KDK on Sunday afternoon. We'll be back with more on this Tomlin Tuesday right after this.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
Jim, how difficult is it to battle back like that? You guys did and then fall short.
I don't think we look at it as difficult. We're able to take the lead late. Just a couple plays didn't go our way. That's just the way it is.
Mike said he felt like we're slow to warm up for this game. Why do you feel you guys couldn't get off to a quick start?
Defensively, I thought, we got some 3 and outs early on, but trading back and forth. Game became a game of field position. I think, a couple times we just didn't capitalize on it, or, we didn't get off the field in time. So, I think you're going 10-3 at half, get off the field with a fumble, get them the ball, but it's just, hit or miss on a bunch of plays today.
How do you view the game? Do you feel like you kind of, after what you did the last 2 games, you kind of gave one back?
Missed opportunities. We have to eat it. They made more plays at the end. Some of that stuff we could have, some head scratching about what was displayed, but man, just take it, move on. I know everybody's pretty pissed off about the loss, but we got to learn from it and be better next time.
Kim, how much confusion was there on that penalty that looked like it was intentional grounding and ended up being an illegal touch?
Well, I thought there was a holding too, so because I was wrapped around my waist, but yet there was no call.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
I think when you're not getting the desired result, it's always a combination of all of the above. I think if it was really simple and in one area, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And so there were multiple components to the discussion, certainly.
Yeah, red zone, as Mike Tomlin likes to call them, weighty downs, are all very big in these kinds of games. And, you know, Missy, it was interesting to look at the numbers because 1 for 10 on third down. The Steelers defense held that team for 1 for 10. That's normally a winning combination. You don't see often perfect on fourth downs. They go 4 for 4 on fourth downs. Something wasn't right with that combination of numbers.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of things that the Cleveland Browns, as Coach said, give them credit to, and how Jameis Winston was able to do things off schedule, to look for guys. If you go back and watch any of the video from NFL Films, he was having a lot of fun in that game, and it truly showed. But for the Steelers defense, just not enough down the stretch. It kind of reminded me of the Dallas game where they had a chance to stop Dak Prescott and just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and Winston was good when he had to be, I'll say that. I do think, I agree with Cam, like you're on that last comment that he made during the commercial, there were some things that weren't called that could have been called and vice versa. So that's always going to be part of it. But I thought another key to the success on those downs for Cleveland was they didn't get enough pressure on Jameis Winston. When he's under pressure in previous games, I mean, he is, like a lot of quarterbacks, apt to throw the ball a little off target, which can create turnovers or whatever. And if you're not going to get pressure, you better make sure that you cover and tackle quickly like they did right there. But point is, Cleveland made plays. I'll give them credit for that, but the Steelers didn't. They had opportunities also on same kind of situations, and there seemed to be confusion. That 4th and 2 play where Justin Fields was in the game, it looked like they weren't ready to call something, and the clock kept ticking down, and they kind of rushed that play.
Yeah, and Fields even said that, you know, it's very random. It's not like you can't premeditate when you're going to put him in. You don't know what's going to happen, what the down and distance is going to be in whatever the circumstance is. But I do think in terms of Myles Garrett, that first half, 3 sacks for Russell Wilson, just what he was able to do to disrupt the Steelers offense and prevent them from being able to score a lot of points was the problem in the first half. And then in the second half, things start working on offense, and then the defense isn't able to stop the Browns.
We're talking red zone efficiency. One of the guys who I'd like to see more of in that is Pat Freiermuth. We saw in the previous play there a little slant to the middle of the field. If it's right on target like the pass was by Russell Wilson, that's almost indefensible. You can't do anything about it if you're a defending team. In the red zone, stuff like that can open up things to the outside as well. So I think all of that comes into play, and their numbers have got to get better on both sides.
Yeah, in terms of Freiermuth, I think coming into this season, every one of his touchdowns that he had in his career was a red zone touchdown or some crazy number like that. So to your point, you're right on there.
What about George Pickens? Now, this is a guy who he has red zone targets, much better than last year. But I think another guy who's, just a mismatch. If you get him one-on-one in coverage, you throw the ball up, you think he's going to come down with it. And I think Mike Tomlin alluded to that. If it wasn't Denzel Ward, then he was going to take his chances with him. There are going to be opportunities like that. We saw in the 2-point conversion, it was, personnel was a little bit different in there, in that you had Patterson in the game. And to me, that was the wrong call.
Yeah, I think, you could go either way. It's something that they practice. Russ even said, it worked and we felt good about it. He's a big body. So I do kind of get it, but I agree just in the circumstances that they were in. And it does feel like what Jerry Jeudy was able to be for the Browns, that's what you want Pickens to be for the Steelers. And it just felt like that was on and off all night. Yeah, it's one of those things that they had extra time to work off. It's a mini bye week, which is good, but Cincinnati had a full bye week coming up. So we'll see how this affects the game coming up on Sunday. We'll take a break. Missy and I will be back. We'll talk about other components of Steelers-Bengals matchup. It's intriguing, certainly coming up Sunday at 1. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today. And here's the roar of the crowd at Acrisure Stadium. This is what it's all about. You've got this whole place rocking. Picked off, touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, the crowd is loving it. I can't even believe that I just saw what I saw. T.J. Watt with a sack. Sensational.
6 at the end of the game there when you got a chance to run out the clock?
You know, I think that we all, as a team, you know, we're trying to make plays, we're trying to do different things. Obviously, we have trust in Justin too, and what he can do and what he's capable of, and everybody. You know, listen, I always want to be in there. That's just the competitor in me. But at the same time, you know, I think that you know, like I said, we have great trust in Justin and our team and our coaches and everything we were doing. So we should have won that game. We felt like we battled, we fought our butts off, and you know, it was a tough environment. Obviously, we wanted to win this one. But unfortunately, we came up short.
Russ, was it something they were doing in the first half that made their pass rush so effective?
I mean, they just made a few plays. I mean, they obviously, you know, Miles made a few plays, different things they did well. Thought we moved the ball, you know, in different moments, you know, but we got to stay consistent. And we had a couple penalties, a couple things that happened. And we stayed the course. We knew it was going to be a battle, especially with the weather and everything else going on. You know, we just knew it was going to be a game that was probably going to come down to the wire. And we liked those moments, you know, and we just had to stay the course, and we answered when we needed to. Obviously, late in the game there, what we answered in the fourth quarter was pretty special, you know, and I think that was key. We thought we had a chance at the end, too.
You guys have gone 7 quarters without scoring, all of a sudden in 6 minutes you scored 2 touchdowns. What was the difference there, and how do you keep, you know, that kind of a spark going throughout the course?
Well, we had some really good explosive plays down the field, you know, throwing the ball with Van, and he made some great catches, Calvin, different things that happened, and then we got stalled for whatever reason. So we got to watch the film and see what that was. But, you know, I thought that the guys, the receivers, did a really good job of making plays tonight, and tough, you know, weather conditions and everything else. We were able to throw the ball down the field and make plays in the key moments.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, your T?
It's a component of what we do. I've been pretty clear about that. Once Justin got healthy, he's a viable and capable dude, and it's something that our opponents have to be aware of. When we use it or how much we utilize it will be dependent on plans week to week.
Mike Tomlin talking about the usage of Justin Fields. How much is too much, or is there never enough? These are questions. He's a very talented guy who can use his legs. We saw the 30-yard run to the outside, and he can change the dynamic of it. But I think, you know, Justin afterwards talked about sometimes the rhythm of the offense when you're thrown into a situation like that, especially in that weather condition. He was cold, literally, in terms of coming into a game, and does it throw off the rhythm of an offense? I think that's a viable question to ask.
Well, to be fair to Justin, you know, I was paying attention in the game in Cleveland. He does try his best to stay warm on the sideline, but there is only so much you can do.
Right.
He does warm up his arm a lot. He does little jogging and whatnot. That is a very difficult thing to do, and he thought that if he wasn't as cold, he might have been able to break off a touchdown on that 30-yard run that you had mentioned. I do think it is interesting for the Steelers using him, and something that they should do, as Coach said, he's a viable option. We're not just going to leave him there. Maybe it's just a matter of when and how. I do think, you know, in terms of the offensive line, it wasn't their best game, and that led to, obviously, you know, some of the sacks on Russ, but sometimes Russ was holding the ball just a little too long, and I think the change of pace is a good thing. At home against the Ravens, when he first came in, fans started going crazy, which is what you don't want on offense. So I was hoping in Cleveland it would work a little bit better, but interested to see what they have in store for Fields as we get ready for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I thought the Baltimore use was great. He came in, they knew they needed to get some yardage, and he slid a little prematurely maybe, and that's
Right,
one of
on
those
that
things.
last
But
one.
still, the bottom line was he got the job done when they needed to, even though it was Harris who got the first down that put the game on ice. But I think that's going to be an interesting question moving forward. When to use him, and I wonder if they would use him not to quarterback a play, but to be in on a play. In other words, have both quarterbacks on the field at one point, just maybe even as a distraction, even if you don't use him, or utilize him some way to accentuate the speed.
I listened to part of your radio show yesterday, so talking about how having them both on the field at the same time. I do think, they have not been using him where he comes in to start the drive, and Coach was asked about that. So it'll be interesting to see, do they continue to just throw him in there when they need maybe, a quick first down or something, or will he take an entire drive?
Yeah, thank you for listening, by the way.
You got it.
We need as many listeners as we can. The other flip side of this is Minkah Fitzpatrick. A lot of people call shows and they look at statistics only, and sometimes statistics can be very misleading. In the case of him, this year, a lot of teams, as Mike Tomlin said, and if you look at the numbers, it's true, they don't throw in the middle of the field because he's there. Now, the question would be, is that the best use of him? Because he is one of those guys who is a dynamic playmaker if he gets the ball or forces the ball. I thought at some point they'd use him the way maybe Troy was used, coming up, doing different things, late blitzes. He's been back there roaming to make sure nothing goes deep.
Yeah, as the last line of defense, Minkah, a very talented athlete. He catches punts, during practice. He's the guy that's always throwing. Sometimes he helps warm up the wide receivers if a quarterback's not out there yet in the early pre-games. But do agree, Coach Tomlin used the reference of Jesse Bates from week 1 in Atlanta, and how Arthur Smith said, I've seen that too much, and Jesse Bates even texted him and said, you got me. And that does feel like maybe that's something that is going against Minkah's favor. But I do agree, the splash plays, the pick 6 against Cincinnati in that game we were talking about, we've seen them before, and it would be good to see some more of those again as well, because interceptions help, the turnovers, it's just a matter also of scoring points off of them.
Exactly. Minkah Fitzpatrick has had a knack for finding the football. Again, schematically, it's not made that possible this year, although we'll see how this goes moving forward. There's still a chance that they're going to utilize them in different ways. Another thing that comes up from people who watch football is, what about moving TJ Watt away from some of the double teams he gets, some of the chips he gets? You can do that. They've done it from time to time. Do you think there'll be more of that in order to free him up when teams decide to put 2 guys on him?
I think there's only so much you can do. He feels very strongly about the side that he plays on. We have seen him and Alex Highsmith, or even him and Herbig, if it was the game that Alex was hurt earlier in the season, where they did switch a few times. But no matter where 90 is lined up, there are going to be chips and holds and the whole 9 yards. I do think it has hurt that outside linebacker group because of the injuries. Yeah. Alex Highsmith was hurt, then Nick Herbig. Alex Highsmith is hurt again. So not having somebody on the other side to take away some attention is all eyes on 90.
Well, that's how it is when you're number 90. You're going to get that all the time. And I wouldn't be surprised when Cleveland comes back in here if number 90 is very impactful in that game, just on how it went the first game that they played. But these are all things that come up in the course of a game when you're dealing with different teams and schemes. And I think in the case of Joe Burrow, they got to get pressure on him one way or the other. But be careful, because if he gets away from the first line of it, then all of a sudden things are opening up in the secondary. But that's going to be a key part of how they decide to attack him, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. And just what he is able to do with Jamar Chase. Last year, as you said, Jake Browning was the quarterback. It was the game in Cincinnati, I believe it was week 11 or 12, right after Matt Canada was fired, where we saw Pat Freiermuth had the big day. They opened up the middle of the field, so hopefully that's something they can do coming out of this mini bye week.
Yeah, need to do that. Big games coming up. Just Cleveland after Cincinnati, and then Baltimore again. And there are a lot of things going on. Baltimore has a late bye week this year, which is interesting.
14,
week 14. That's, I guess, a good thing for
coming into
them.
the Steelers game, so they'll get extra rest before
extra
that.
race. So that's going to be another component of that matchup. We're going to take a break, come back with more as we conclude this week's Tomlin Tuesday right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Back in Flash.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
See North coming to Cleveland in late November, you kind of got to expect some type of weather. But those guys answered the call, and those guys played a well-balanced game, man, for 60 minutes.
Your defense really kept you guys in the game, especially. They felt like the momentum was on your side there, like, especially after your pick.
Yeah, I mean, just getting out there, trying to make plays. But yeah, they made timely plays when it mattered most. So hats off to those guys, man. They fought and they played hard.
I know this isn't your call, but what's the advantage of making it 3rd and 7 instead of 4th and 2 in that situation?
I don't know, man. I say that question for coach. I don't know. Just playing, just executing what I got to do.
How deflating is a loss like this because it was such a roller coaster kind of ride?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. You always want to be the rival, especially on the road. Yeah, it sucks. You always want to win games, man. Yeah, when it happened like that, it just all the more worse. But yeah, you just got to pack it up and keep going. We'll see him in a couple weeks.
Just one of the times you have to have a kind of a short-term memory and look ahead, which you kind of the gauntlet of games you have coming up.
Yeah, when you lose or draw, you always want to look forward to the next challenge. Like I said, man, hats off to those guys. Those guys came out from start to finish, and it was firing on all cylinders. Made plays when it counted and when it mattered, and we just gotta be better at the end, close the game out.
Very deflating. I mean, we need to close out games. We weren't able to do that tonight, and the result was a loss.
I know it wasn't your call, but what was the advantage of making that a 3rd and 7 instead of a 4th and 2 there late?
That's not, obviously that's above my pay grade. We just try to play when the ball snapped and make plays, and we didn't make enough tonight.
The play before the touchdown run at the end there, did you guys think about letting them score? I know that you were trying to punch it out. What kind of goes through your mind in those situational moments?
Oh, we're just trying to get the ball out, trying to punch at it, get an opportunity to get the ball back in our hands.
Was it kind of either get that punch out or try to let him go in? Did he go down?
We were trying to get the ball out.
TJ, what did they do to sustain drives so frequently throughout this game?
They were able to convert when they needed to, just make plays in big-time moments, and we weren't able to.
We got Alex Highsmith leaning in on the return. We'll let his participation and the quality of that participation be our guide in terms of whether he gets back in or to what degree he gets back in. We got some other guys who are working their way back to us, like Corey Trice and Mon Adams, that may have an opportunity this week as well.
All right, so a mini bye week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bob, there you see just 3 names that Coach Tomlin mentioned. I think getting Alex Highsmith back would be huge this week. And moving forward as they continue the push of these final 6 games, he's dealing with that ankle injury. Corey Trice, his 21-day window has already been activated from IR. It's just a matter of will he revert back to IR or come on. And Montravius Adams, someone else he mentioned, he's also still on IR.
Vince Williams, over and under 3 catches. You think we get over? I do. I think it's time.
Vince Williams.
Or, I'm sorry, Mike Williams.
I
was thinking about our 5A game we were doing the other night. Mike Williams. It's time, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so too.
I'll do over. Vince, how are you? Nice working with you as well. Still on my mind from Saturday night at Acrisure Stadium. That's going to do it. Thanks for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving. Missy, happy Thanksgiving to you, and appreciate all your viewership. We'll see you again next week.